The coaching staff under Sean McVay, so really just kind of a new mix of guys. RC, what do you think of what the Rams are doing out there with the offensive staff?
Well, I think the first thing is that Sean McVay makes it work no matter who it is. And we've seen so many of his assistants move up in Los Angeles and become head coaches. And Nate Schillhouse, who had opportunities to interview for head coaching jobs, seems like the next up. He was the pass game coordinator last year, and we saw what they were able to do with Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, and that group of tight ends. For me, it's also bringing in Cliff Kingsbury. Now you're collecting other great offensive minds, and for me, what that adds is an outside perspective on how other people see you, how they know your tips, your tendencies, and how you can now change from the perception that is had of you outside of the building. When someone can say to you, when we prepared for this offense, here is what our defensive staff told us.
RC, I love that. I'm going to go to the opposite side with these coaches. It's guilty by association in a good way. If you're Cliff Kingsbury, why wouldn't you want to come work for Sean McVay and see how a head coach with that tremendous amount of success has been able to sustain it? One, with a veteran quarterback, a team that's changed around him, and also Schillhouse being there, being promoted from within. And Sean McVay, we all know who's the catalyst to this offense and how much success that they've had. So I would want to be a part of a staff for the next step in my journey. Remember, Cliff Kingsbury has been a head coach in this league before and started really well, and it fell off. So I think a lot of this for Sean McVay is not only having more eyes and ears and more experience in the locker room, but it's also for Schillhouse and obviously Cliff Kingsbury to learn from a guy that's doing it at a very high level and have that be a part of your resume when you go into this next phase of trying to become a head coach and run an organization, more so than calling X's and O's, but recognizing how important it is to have all of that other stuff figured out.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the Los Angeles Rams perspective, in terms of like what this means for the team and all this, like essentially nothing, because it's all Sean McVay, Sean McVay, Sean McVay, Sean McVay, Sean McVay, Sean McVay. For the coaches in the building, it's great, right? You know, because they get to continue to improve, learn, and grow from, say it with me, Sean McVay. But I mean, when you are the main guy, like the Shanahan, like the McVays and whatnot, all this other stuff is kind of weird, especially when you have seasoned veterans, right? If you had a young quarterback, a young developing quarterback, then I would maybe put a little bit more emphasis. I'm still putting it all, you know, even if Sean McVay, let's say you just drafted Mendoza or something, right? Like I'm still putting it all on the shoulders of Sean McVay. But again, maybe there would be the most I would care about the coordinators, I think, is if you still had Matthew Stafford and then you drafted a Mendoza, and now Sean McVay is still obviously going to be working with Mendoza, but his main focus is with Stafford, obviously. And what they're doing and some of the things that you're going to tell your coaching staff, your quarterback coach, your OC and whatnot, the things that you want to be able to kind of, you know, the types of discussions that you want to continue to keep having with your young quarterback who was just drafted and is now sitting for a season or something, right? Then I think maybe I would care a lot more. But at the end of the day, it's just like this is Sean McVay's party, right? That's obvious to me. I think that's obvious to everyone. You know, so hardly a hot take. But I still think, though it's good to have, I think when you're having the success that the Rams have, and you again obviously are run by Sean McVay, it's good to have some youth and have that continuity, right? Because now you have that trust that you're building, which is good. And now even when you bring in a new person like a Cliff Kingsbury, you're all kind of cut from the same cloth, combined with there's going to be a ton of trust there as well, right? And I think like that's ultimately what you'd like if you're in a Sean McVay situation where you do have to kind of keep repopulating the staff. There is a lot of like a retraining that needs to happen. And I think that in this type of situation, probably the best benefit is just, again, having some continuity, and any of the people that are new inside the building, you know, you trust, you know, you're going to get along. You know, you speak the same language. You know, you have a lot of the same philosophies. And I do love what Ryan Clark said, how you kind of bring in this outside perspective, some of the conversations that are being had from the outside looking in. And I think that can actually go a pretty long way as well. But I am fascinated to see what exactly the Rams look to do moving forward, right? Do they draft their quarterback? Are they in a situation to do that? Does someone fall to them that they're kind of like, hey, we like this kid, we want him in the wings, right? We want him to kind of sit behind Stafford for a year, no pressure, no rush whatsoever. I'm really fascinated to see what type of decisions they make. I'm curious if any Rams fans have heard of any whispers in that regard. I've heard a couple, but none worth really discussing. I try not to chase like every little blip to try to, and make a video about it because I just think that's kind of a losing battle. But yeah, I also just think too, right, with the Rams because of how well run they are and how elite their offense is really in every single facet. Quarterback, run game, receivers, tight ends. It's just like there is no next level. You don't look at this, but what the Rams need to be able to do next year is blank. It's just like, no, just like literally just continue what you're doing. And again, it's flushed with seasoned veterans. Like there really is no like development there. There's really like no room for improvement. It's just keep on doing what you're doing and stay healthy. That's honestly really truly how I look at it. There's no like next evolution to show, well, what Sean McVay needs to do is he needs to get better at blanker. It's time for Stafford to really look to, and it's just like I don't know, like, I still look at the Rams as one of the teams, if not the team that at the end of the day, I just fundamentally trust the most right on the field. Who do I trust is going to have the best saucy, the best opportunity to put their players, put themselves in a position to succeed and therefore win and execute. And it's hard for me to not constantly see that as the Rams, especially when the core of it is Stafford and McVay, and then of course we add in the Puka, Devontae, etc. But still, like at the core of it, it's still McVay and Stafford. And I really think the only thing that hurts, and this is how I felt last year. It's funny. I didn't realize this until right now. I kept saying all last, like off season, going into this past season, as long as Stafford's healthy, you're golden, right? You'll be a great team. You'll be a top team. And that obviously ended up being true. And that's exactly how I feel again this year. It's just very much like as long as Stafford's healthy, this team will be an elite. Like it'll be repeat of what we just saw this past year where it's like, yeah, you're a great team, you're top team, you're trustworthy team, right? Like nobody wants to play you. You're awesome team. And you truly have a legitimate, bona fide, no ifs, ends, or buts saucy to go off and win the Super Bowl. The rest is just, are you able to put it all together, right? Like they weren't last season, but not because they weren't good enough. We could blame the defense, we could blame this, we could blame that, but like it just didn't happen. Just didn't unfold that way. But I just, if they ran it back exactly, if you were to play the exact season last year all over again, I think you would feel still, just if you were to play the Seahawks again, I guarantee you'd probably feel really good about that game. I think you'd feel really good about that game. And certainly if you had the opportunity to play the Patriots, you'd feel really good about your saucy to win the Super Bowl, right? So it's just like that's where you're at. And the only way I could see that really changing is if you get, cluster injuries, or of course if Stafford goes down or is just clearly banged up and just, hanging on by a thread. So to me, everything else is kind of just window dressing, just kind of, I don't want to say nonsense or noise, but it's just not pressing. It's just not that important because this is already such a finely tuned machine and it's run by veterans with veterans on veterans. And so where's the problems? But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Los Angeles Rams? How do you feel about some of these coaching moves? I am curious, like, when you look at it, because again, I see it just very strongly through the eyes of Sean McVay. Like that is obviously, that's what pretty much majority of my take was just me talking about. And I am just curious, like how you feel about how these coaches, what their impact, right? What a Cliff Kingsbury is and Nate's impact. Like, what do you think their impact is when you do have a coach like a Sean McVay NFC seasoned veteran, right? Like what is what conversations at this point is Matthew Stafford having with the Cliff Kingsbury? It's not to say that they still can't learn from each other, because of course they can, but like how significant of an impact is it really having right on it in this moment of time? It can't be much. Again, you can always learn. You can learn from, your 12-year-old son or your 8-year-old daughter. You can learn from anyone, right? So it's not to say that you reach a point where there's just nothing to be gained from anyone. But like, I am just curious how you guys perceive the impact of these types of situations. Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment, so you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.